Hey, loving listeners, welcome back to Mind Blowing Motive, where we inspire you to live smarter, stronger, and better. Today's story is something that every woman, young or grown, needs to hear. So take a deep breath, lean back, and let your heart listen. It all started in a small town where a woman named Clara lived. She wasn't famous, not a CEO, not someone with a huge following, but she had something more powerful: control. Control not just over her actions, but over her thoughts, emotions, time, and choices. People would often wonder how she stayed so calm when things fell apart, how she smiled when life turned rough, how she led her family, career, and inner world like a queen, without ever raising her voice. That kind of control didn't come from magic. It came from small, daily choices she made over the years. Choices that shaped her, disciplined her, and gave her the edge in life. Clara's mornings didn't begin with chaos. While many people jumped out of bed, scrolling through phones or rushing to work, she started her day with silence. Before she looked at a screen or talked to anyone, she sat with her thoughts. Just 5 minutes, sometimes 10. She didn't meditate like a monk, but she did breathe, think about her day, and reminded herself that she was in charge. That simple moment gave her a head start over the world. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being present. Clara understood that control doesn't mean controlling other people. It means controlling your reactions. When someone would criticize her or throw negativity her way, she wouldn't fight back with anger. Instead, she'd pause, look at them with calm eyes and say, "Thank you for sharing your thoughts." Then she'd walk away. That shook people more than any argument ever could. She had learned that not every comment deserved a reply, and not every battle needed her energy. Control was about choosing where to invest herself. At work, Clara wasn't the loudest in the room, but people listened when she spoke. Why? Because she had trained herself to speak with intention. She didn't ramble. She didn't gossip. She used words like tools, not weapons. And when people talked behind her back, she didn't chase rumors. She stayed focused on her work, and her results spoke louder than any whisper. It wasn't that she didn't feel hurt or angry. She just didn't let emotions drive her decisions. One of her strongest habits was saying no. Not with guilt, but with grace. She wasn't afraid to turn down things that drained her time or energy. Invitations she didn't feel aligned with, she declined. Tasks that weren't hers to carry, she let go. She had learned that saying no to others often means saying yes to yourself. And when she said yes, she meant it. No half-hearted promises, no overcommitments, just real, grounded choices. Clara also kept her space clean, not just her home, but her mind. Every evening she'd journal, nothing too deep. Sometimes just a sentence or two about what she was thankful for or what made her feel strong that day. That simple habit helped her process emotions without dumping them on others. It was her emotional laundry, quiet, personal, but powerful. It gave her clarity in moments when others would lose control. Now Clara wasn't a woman with no struggles. In fact, her life had been full of them. She'd lost people. She'd failed in business once. She had days when she felt ugly, useless, and tired, but that's when her control showed the most. Instead of drowning in self-pity, she gave herself kindness. She didn't wait for someone else to save her. She became her own rescue team. With a cup of tea, a walk in the park, or simply crying it out and then wiping her tears, she showed up for herself again and again. When her daughter turned 16, she asked her mom, "How do you always keep it together?" Clara smiled and said, "Sweetheart, I don't always. I just learned how to fall without breaking." That's the kind of control we're talking about. Not robotic strength, but the grace to stay centered when the world spins around you. She also protected her peace like it was gold. If someone's energy was constantly draining, she stepped back. Not because she hated them, but because she loved herself enough to set boundaries. She didn't explain those boundaries every time. She simply lived them. And slowly people learned to treat her with respect. That's what control does. It teaches others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. Every Sunday, Clara had a ritual. She'd sit with a notebook and plan her week, not just tasks, but intentions. How did she want to feel this week? What moments did she want to create? Where would she invest her attention? That clarity saved her from becoming reactive. She wasn't running around in panic, she was moving with purpose. And when things didn't go as planned, she didn't melt down. She adjusted. Because control isn't about rigidity, it's about flexibility with direction. One winter, her best friend betrayed her. The kind of betrayal that cuts deep. Most people expected Clara to lash out or break down, but she didn't. She cried that night, talked to herself like she talked to a friend, then made a decision not to carry bitterness. She didn't fake forgiveness, but she didn't let that pain turn her into someone else. That's real control, holding your dignity even when your heart is bleeding. Clara had a rule. If it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't waste more than 5 minutes worrying about it. That one rule saved her sanity. When things went wrong, when people misunderstood her or something broke, she asked herself, will this matter 5 years from now? If the answer was no, she moved on. She knew time was her most valuable currency, and she spent it wisely. Every woman has that power inside her. Clara wasn't born with it. She built it, one choice at a time, one calm response at a time, one loving boundary at a time. You don't need to shout to be powerful. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Your control doesn't come from your voice being loud. It comes from your soul being steady. Clara's strength was never about being fearless. It was about doing things even when she was scared. There were days when she stood in front of a big meeting, heart pounding, hands slightly shaking, unsure if she'd be taken seriously. But she still walked in, held her head high, and spoke from her truth. Not because she felt brave, but because she knew backing down wouldn't help her grow. That's another layer of control, showing up when it's easier to hide. She never let fear make her decisions. She acknowledged it, nodded at it, and kept going. Over the years, Clara became the kind of woman who inspired quietly, not with loud success stories or flashy achievements, but with presence. The way she listened, the way she made people feel safe around her, the way she didn't chase approval. People trusted her because she was honest about her boundaries, her struggles, and her journey. She wasn't trying to be perfect. She was just trying to be real. That realness made her magnetic, because in a world full of noise, her calm was rare. Her friendships were not based on drama. Clara chose friends who supported her growth. If someone constantly pulled her down, she didn't argue or beg for their loyalty. She just stepped away. Quietly, that decision confused many people. "Why'd you stop talking to her?" they'd ask. Clara would simply smile and say, "Peace is more important than proof." She didn't need to prove who was wrong. She just needed to protect her energy. And the older she got, the clearer that truth became. In her home, Clara brought the same kind of intentional energy. She didn't believe in yelling to gain respect. She believed in modeling what respect looked like. Her kids saw her wake up early, speak gently, manage time wisely, and apologize when she messed up. That's how she taught control, not with lectures, but with living examples. Her children learned that strength wasn't in volume, it was in consistency. They learned to trust her, not because she was strict, but because she was steady. Even in romantic relationships, Clara kept her standards clear. She never settled for being someone's second choice or backup plan. If a man couldn't respect her time, her voice, or her boundaries, she didn't wait around hoping he'd change. She left, not with bitterness, but with belief that someone who truly sees your worth will never ask you to shrink. Control in love meant not begging for what should be freely given. It meant walking away with grace when something didn't align with her values. Money was another area Clara managed with care. She wasn't wealthy, but she was wise. She didn't chase every sale or trend. She budgeted, planned, and always kept some aside for herself. Not just for emergencies, but for joy. A coffee at her favorite shop, a solo trip to the mountains, a book that made her heart smile. She didn't wait for someone else to spoil her. She did that for herself. Because control also means understanding your own needs and not feeling guilty for meeting them. And oh, how she cared for her body, not to look good for others, but to feel good for herself. Clara made time to walk, stretch, and eat well. Not every day, not perfectly, but consistently. She didn't shame herself for missing a workout or eating dessert. She loved her body like a partner, not a project. She'd whisper things like, "Thank you for carrying me today," or "You deserve rest," to herself. That inner kindness made her stronger than any external routine. When challenges came, and they always did, Clara didn't panic. She paused. Whether it was a financial struggle, a health scare, or an unexpected change, she followed the same pattern. Breathe, assess, act. She didn't allow her emotions to hijack her plans. That didn't mean she was cold. It meant she was centered. Even in grief, she found a way to process without drowning. She gave herself permission to feel, but didn't let those feelings run the show. People started coming to her for advice. Younger women, friends, co-workers. They'd ask, "How do you stay so together?" Clara would often smile and say, "I'm not together. I just don't fall apart in public." Then she'd add, "And even when I do, I know how to rebuild myself." That rebuilding skill, that's the secret. Not just how you manage good days, but how you navigate the storm. Clara had learned that storms don't last forever, but they do reveal how rooted you are. She also made time for fun. Control didn't mean being stiff or serious all the time. Clara laughed, a lot. She danced in her kitchen, told silly jokes, and sang loudly when nobody was watching. She understood that joy wasn't something you wait for. It's something you create. And when she was happy, she didn't apologize for it. She didn't dim her light for anyone else's comfort. Her joy was her rebellion, her way of saying, "I deserve to feel good too." One afternoon, she met a young woman in a coffee shop who looked anxious and overwhelmed. They started talking, and the girl said, "I feel like I'm losing control of everything." Clara didn't offer a fix. She just listened, nodded, and said, "Start with what you can control. Your breath, your thoughts, your next small action. That's how you build it back." That moment changed the girl's life because Clara didn't give her power. She helped her find her own. There were times when Clara failed too. Times she said the wrong thing, missed a deadline, or disappointed someone she loved. But instead of beating herself up, she took responsibility and learned. She didn't hide her mistakes. She owned them. That's real control, choosing growth over guilt. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to keep showing up, a little better each day. Eventually, Clara became a role model for more than just women. Men respected her, kids admired her, strangers noticed her quiet strength, but she never let the praise get to her head, because her control didn't come from what others thought of her. It came from what she thought of herself. She had built a deep trust with her own soul, and that was unshakable. The years passed, and Clara's story continued to unfold with the same rhythm of strength and softness. She no longer chased the idea of having everything figured out. She embraced the beauty of evolving. Life wasn't about control over everything. It was about mastering herself in the middle of it all. She didn't aim to fix every problem or please every person. Her focus was on staying aligned with her own values, no matter what the world threw at her. Sometimes she would sit by her window, a cup of tea in hand, and reflect on how far she'd come, not in terms of money or status, but in terms of peace. There was a time when she needed external approval to feel worthy, but now, her worth wasn't up for negotiation. She didn't wait for someone to validate her. She became her own source of encouragement, her own safe space, her own calm in the chaos. That shift in mindset was the real game changer. She didn't always speak the loudest in a room, but people listened when she talked. Her words carried weight because they came from experience. When someone asked for advice, she didn't offer quick fixes or empty motivation. She asked questions that made them think. She believed in helping people discover their own path, not forcing them to follow hers. That's how she led. By example, not control. Even during conflicts, Clara stayed grounded. She had learned the art of choosing her battles. Not everything needed a reaction. Some things were better left unanswered. Silence, when used wisely, was her most powerful tool. She didn't let others drag her into emotional chaos. She chose peace over pride. And because she had practiced that inner discipline, her emotions didn't own her anymore. She owned them. There were moments when she cried, of course. Being strong didn't mean she was numb. But her tears weren't signs of weakness. They were signs that she felt deeply and cared genuinely. She didn't see vulnerability as a flaw. She saw it as a bridge, something that connected her to others, something that made her human. And that, too, was a kind of control, allowing herself to be soft without falling apart. She kept learning, too. Books, podcasts, conversations, even her mistakes. Everything became a lesson. Clara didn't pretend to know it all. She stayed curious, because in her eyes, growth wasn't something you achieved and moved on from. It was a lifelong practice. That mindset kept her humble, open, and always improving. The more she learned, the more she understood herself. And the more she understood herself, the easier it became to stand her ground. As time went on, younger women started calling her a mentor, not because she had a title or formal position, but because she embodied the kind of wisdom they craved. She didn't pretend to have the perfect life, but her balance, her clarity, and her quiet confidence were magnetic. They wanted to know how she stayed so composed in a messy world. And every time, she told them the same thing. I stopped trying to control everything outside and started focusing on what's within. Clara didn't rush anymore. She had let go of the need to prove her worth through busyness. She moved through life with intention. Whether she was cooking dinner, walking in the park, or writing in her journal, she was fully present. That presence created space for peace. And from that peace came power, the kind that didn't need to shout, the kind that didn't crumble when tested. She surrounded herself with things and people that nurtured her: a cozy home, a few deep friendships, regular moments of stillness. She had cut out the noise, not in anger but in love, for herself, because she knew that her energy was sacred, and whatever drained it without purpose had to go. That boundary didn't make her rude, it made her wise. One morning, Clara looked in the mirror and saw not just a woman who had endured, but a woman who had transformed. She didn't wish to go back in time. She didn't wish to be someone else. She had made peace with her past, hope for her future, and presence in her present. She had taken control, not of the world, but of her response to it. That made all the difference. The most beautiful thing about Clara's journey was that she never needed the world to hand her a crown. She crowned herself every day with self-respect, discipline, kindness, and courage. And in doing so, she taught every woman watching her that control isn't about power over others. It's about power within. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to Mind-Blowing Motive. We share simple, powerful stories to help you grow in English and in life.